And it's time for another episode of Boardroom RevOps, where we're bringing you valuable tips from RevOps experts so you can make it to the C-suite. I'm James, co-founder of Accounting, the next-gen BI solution for RevOps teams. I'm excited to be joined by Han Wang today. Great to have you on, Han.
Thank you very much for having me.
Han is the VP of Revenue Operations at Reversing Labs and a master of BI for RevOps, to put it lightly. I'm excited to talk shop. Han, do you want to share your background in a bit more detail for folks?
Sure thing. Yeah. So yeah, like what you just said, I'm VP of Revenue Operations at Reversing Labs. I manage sales operations, marketing operations. My team also manages all the go-to-market technologies, and also we have a BI function. I have the BI function providing business insights. I started my career in marketing operations, and then head into sales operations. Later on, I started managing the entire sales operations function, and at my recent company, Riveson Labs, I'm managing the entire revenue operations function.
Sounds like plenty to do for sure. We were talking at dinner actually about all of the BI you guys have set up and how impressed I was by it. And I'm excited to cover that on today's call. But before we dive in, just to set the stage, we ask everyone like, how do you define RevOps?
So I think revenue operations should be a fancy word of sales ops to begin with. I think the importance of revenue operations is you have to combine all the elements of the go-to-market operations together. That is marketing operations, sales operations, and then customer success. So revenue operations should be the function to align all these different areas together. And we're talking about shared goals, shared metrics, shared reporting, and fully aligned processes. Also, from the technology perspective, we need to make sure that all the technologies that are being used by these functions are aligned as well, fully integrated, and with a cohesive roadmap versus, we have like the point solutions here and there under the previous model, which is very challenging.
Well put. And I like how you even added some definition to what alignment means because alignment is thrown out by so many people. But I think you said shared definitions, shared processes. Good way to kind of bring together all of those functions. Speaking of shared metrics, so BI, a lot of people talk about, and they're not wrong, Salesforce can do anything, right? It's got pretty good reporting. It's very flexible. You can write custom code. If that's true, why is BI important for RevOps to be thinking of?
Well, I think first of all, Salesforce can't do everything. There's many things Salesforce cannot do. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good functionalities from Salesforce, right? Over the years, there's a lot of involvement. The reporting capabilities getting much better versus the classic version. But there's still some things that Salesforce doesn't do quite well. Well, first of all, I can cover what Salesforce covers. They're doing a good job. And by the way, we also use Salesforce reporting. So Salesforce is pretty strong now, showing the data of the current state. Like, for example, when we talk about pipeline creation, we can always use Salesforce because once the opportunity is created, it never changes. It created last week. And when you go to Salesforce, you see the bar chart, you see the opportunities created last week. And if you have proper functions designed in Salesforce, by doing the snapshot of each stage, you can have a dashboard in Salesforce that shows, like in this time frame, how many opportunities were created and progress to different stages, like progress to qualify to depending on the sales process, right, to POV or to negotiation. So that's going to be a very powerful dashboard. We actually use that type of dashboard at Reversing Labs. Every week we have a review looking at the pipeline progression for the week, and I think that's first of all that's a very easy dashboard to show, and Salesforce is doing a great job doing that. The other thing Salesforce is doing quite a good job is in the report you can click into the details, right, and then you can just share that over. That link is going to give you the view specifically to that drill down, which is very powerful. What Salesforce is not doing a good job is data trending. It has some limited trending capability, but it's nowhere as sophisticated as what BI can do, right? So several things that, just examples when we talk about pipeline trending, meaning like if we ask the question, what is our pipeline as of now versus the pipeline a year ago, that is not going to be something Salesforce will be able to answer. So you have to do data snapshot to answer that question. And this is a very powerful insight. I think all the revenue operations functions should be able to answer because it's very strong leading indicator in terms of like what is the trend, like not only the pipeline trending, but there's a lot of underneath information under that trending, right? What is the trending by this, by that, by new logo, by expansion, by this vertical, by a lot of different things by product, by use cases. You can slice and dice that trending report in like many different ways and to provide business insight. By territory, if you are like starting a new territory, you want to see how that territory is ramping up, right? If you want to like start a new geo, you want to see how that geo is trending up, and whether your pipeline by different territory by rep is like evenly distributed. That's the other thing that is very important. And Salesforce is not able to answer this question well, right? You have to do data snapshot to be able to generate a report like pipeline trending. And same trending for account trending, like, to answer the question such as how many customers do you have last year versus this year, right? And how are they growing, like in different segmentation, right? How is the ARR growing by customer, by segmentation? These are not things that Salesforce can easily answer, right? You have to do manipulation and to get the answer you want. And the other thing, even though Salesforce reporting function is getting better, right? Now you have more report types, but still there's many limitations. When you open up that panel, there's only so many things you can do, right? You can't even change the color. You can change the color. It's just 3-4 options, but it's not flexible enough to give you the in-depth view, or for sure it's not you can't just grab the report for your board deck. It's not pretty enough to do the job. And certain reports is not available in Salesforce, such as the mapping report, the map. I think the map report is very powerful. We use Tableau. A lot of things on the map. It's going to give you a lot of insight in terms of your planning and your performance in the territory, right? The geolocation.
Yeah, really helpful. And I share your opinion on all of that 100% completely. What do you say to people who might say, well, I can create a bunch of custom objects, and Salesforce has snapshotting capabilities in those custom objects, and they think they can kind of hack around. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, you can do that. You can snapshot a lot of data over to the custom objects. But first of all, it's going to consume your resource. The Salesforce has limitations. First of all, right? And the other thing is, have to think about the whole change management and maintenance down the road. Once you want to add additional data and you want to like merge different tables, there's a lot of limitations. Still, a lot of limitations when you want to snapshot data. Because when we talk about snapshot into the BI data warehouse, we're talking about taking a data copy over to the warehouse. Well, we send the copy to data lake, and then we can send it over to a more efficient server to generate report. So we have the capability of going back and reference a lot more dimensions from that snapshot, right? Because we have the entire snapshot, and down the road, if we say, we missed this data point, let's go back and get it. We can still get it. But once you set up that snapshot in Salesforce, you go to a custom object. You have to really design that to make sure that that's like gonna be super stable down the road, because it's gonna be very hard for you to go back and change your mind.
Such a good point.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you've sat in this seat and you've been dealing with it for a while. I feel like there's probably a couple requests every quarter where someone wants to go back and look at historical information. It's kind of like an ad hoc request. Is that in your experience too?
Correct. I mean, sometimes even though it's not a request, it could be from myself. Like, I could be like, one day I said, oh, shoot, I forgot to do, this is an interesting report that I should be looking into, right? And at that moment, it's going to be a good thing for me to be able to go back and reference that data point versus, I realized that, oh, shoot, I didn't do that snapshot. I didn't include that data point in my snapshot. So that means I can't really go back and start analyzing that data point. I can do it going forward by adding that data point, but I can't go back. So which is a pity, and you have to wait for a long time to see any trending.
Totally. Yeah, a long time. I might have jumped into this a little bit too quickly. There might be some folks listening who obviously know what BI and a data warehouse is at the highest level. Maybe could you explain to the audience like the benefits of BI and a data warehouse and even like what they are just one click lower? Like we don't have to get super deep and technical, but curious if you could just explain the benefits versus maybe a CRM at a slightly more technical capacity.
Yeah, so CRM is a database, right? Yeah, it's a database is always updating, because we have many users and it's like a live database. The way I look at it is, first of all, we can do a lot of the data manipulation using the data warehouse, right? Because like I said, we can take the copy of the CRM data over to BI, and we can do data snapshots. Like we take data every day, For example, or every week, we have that option, and we can query the data, historical data in the data warehouse in BI. The other thing we can do is we can also take data from other systems. Like for example, we can take data from our financial system, right, HR system. We can take data from our product usage system, and so that we can merge all the data together within the data warehouse to enable other use cases. Design, model your data. The data is ready to be visualized using tools like Tableau or Power BI or something else. So that's the benefit. And we covered some of the things that Salesforce can't do or other CRMs can't do, right? In order to accomplish what you want to accomplish, you have to have some kind of functionality. You can use Excel, right? But Excel has a limitation. It can only take, I forgot how many, but 1 million something rows. Once you have more than that number of records, you can't scale anymore.
Yeah, you're taking me back to my past life as an investment banking analyst when at 2 in the morning my Excel would freeze and crash because there's too much data in it. So definitely
Correct.
limitations
Yeah.
there.
It can get slow.
Cool. So you mentioned a few analytics off the top of your head, Han. The map view, counting the number of accounts, ARR waterfalls, pipeline trends, drill downs, all kind of trended. Any other dashboards on your checklist of things that like RevOps should be looking at from like a BI perspective?
Yeah, I mean, these things that I mentioned, I think are, in my opinion, foundational piece to look at, right? So like I said, pipeline trending is crucial. You have to have the capability to look at your pipeline, see how it's trending over time, right? Do you have more pipeline? Do you have enough coverage? You have to be able to answer that question. And also the trending, is also about what is our current quarter pipeline trending, what is our next quarter pipeline trending, right? You can zoom into specific quarter. And the other thing that is very important, and you have to have trending to answer that question, is to calculate your close rate. Because I know there's many ways of calculating the close rate, but for example, for our company and for my previous companies, the sales cycle normally is longer than one quarter. I think in nowadays most of the B2B software, is going to take more than a quarter to close because of the different processes, right? You have to go through the security review, the legal review process. I mean, even though the dollar amount is small, the companies are just like more careful now with all these processes, and it's going to take a long time from the initial engagement to getting it qualified, a business case built and approved, and go through the whole process. So that means the way we look at close rate is we look at how much pipeline do we have at the beginning of the quarter and see how much we close. And also we take into consideration of the pipeline we built in the quarter and closed in the quarter. By adding these up together, we have a clear understanding of the close rate. But in order to know how much pipeline do you have at the beginning of the quarter, you have to do a snapshot, right? You have to take that snapshot and this is the snapshot of my data at the beginning of the quarter. Yeah, there's many use cases, but I would just say that pipeline trending is a foundational piece that RevOps have to use. I mentioned about the pipeline creation dashboard. That is something you can do in Salesforce, right? And I actually encourage people to do that in Salesforce because the sales management team is in Salesforce, or other tools like Clary, so that it's very easy for people to access in the environment that they are working.
Mm-hmm.
The other report I would say is quite important for revenue operations is the ARR report, ARR trending, right? Like, when you look at a fiscal period, like a quarter, you want to see what is the additional ARR you're adding, what is the new logo ARR you're adding, what is the churn, the dollar churn and the account churn. And then you want to drill down into these and see like we turn this amount of customer. What about can I see it by product? Can I see by reason? And I lost these customers. Can I see who they are? Things like that, right? You want to have this function that you can easily click and see the change in your AR. And also this report will be able to answer what is your GDR, what is your this type of calculations that are crucial for SaaS companies. So the other thing I mentioned is customer trending, right? That's also very important, right? What is your customer health and how is being trend, how is that trending over time? What is the AR by account? So there's many things to look at. But yeah, I would say pipeline and bookings, and these are foundational pieces that you have to have.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the mention of customer health additionally too, because I think a lot of companies have customer health scores. But while the overall score does matter, the rate of change actually you could argue matters more because a company might be an 85, which looks average, but if it was a 99 1 or 2 quarters ago, that's actually very concerning. So I think without trending, this becomes like a hidden issue.
Correct. Yeah, and also how do you cluster these customer scores into like different buckets? So yeah, different slice and dicing is gonna give you a lot more insight behind.
Totally. Han, you mentioned, and I'm going to put you on the spot, that you might have a few images or examples to show us. I think it might be a good
Yeah,
time to bring that up if that works for you.
sounds good. Yeah, I do have a few charts. I removed any reference, so and it's dummy data. So let me share some of the visuals. Here it is. Let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Okay, so this is just one example, right? So I mentioned about the pipeline at the beginning of each quarter, and I think this is a very important thing to look at. Because we want to see like we want to understand any trending that we have. So this is just one example. Look at this chart, right? We can see that our pipeline is growing, and we can see like why it is growing. Right? Is it new logo is growing or is expansion that is growing? So this is something that you can slice and dice in many different ways, right? You can change this stack bar into, say, by industry. That's something that you can take a look and you can do an 100% bar. You can
Hmm.
see like the percentages for different industry and see whether you have any trending in different industries. You can have it by product. You can have it in many different ways. That's why I'm saying that this is like by anything, right? Anything you can do, you can slice and dice to find insight to provide back to the business. Because one thing about close rate is, there's the overall close rate for the pipeline. There's also the close rate by different things. Like what is your close rate by new logo pipeline versus expansion? They could be very different, right? New logo could be much lower than expansion pipeline. And what is your cross-sell pipeline versus upsell? That's also different. And what about, by product? There's just all kinds of different things that you need to look at. And if you want to do the forecast in this perspective, you can use that close rate and you can have the different segments and to do the math, right, to calculate your mathematical forecast and overlay your management forecast, right, what you have learned from the forecast call to see what the forecast could be. Right, so this is just one example. And again, this is the thing that I think BI is able to do a very good job, which is you can easily do different slice and dicing in
Hmm.
this view, right? In BI, you can say, just give me this industry and it's going to filter down, right, to the charts will change and then you can see that view. It's just so easy for any, you know, analyst to get in there and to start asking questions and get answers. Okay, so this is the first chart. The second chart is this is another trending report. This is looking at total pipeline. Okay, so this is not like the starting quarter pipeline. This is looking at total pipeline. And the three lines, like let me explain here. The top line is what I call total pipeline. The second line is qualified pipeline. The third line is POV or bot pipeline. Depending on different companies, there are different definitions of the pipeline, right? People call it stage zero pipeline or stage two or bot pipeline or
Hmm.
whatever. But this is just to show a visual of what is the raw pipeline you have, what percentage of that pipeline is qualified at a certain point, and what percentage is you know deeper in the process. We're in the process of doing the demonstration, doing POV, which is a great indicator milestone of the sales process, and we want to see you know how much pipeline we have on that stage, right? In the trending, maybe you have one line that is trending up, but late stage pipeline is flat. That means maybe your qualification stage pipeline is getting like inflated. Maybe we have to check like, do we have any change in the definition? Are we still, using the consistent definition? or maybe we are facing some challenges moving them into the next stage. So we need to start asking the questions of why, and we need to drill down to see, is it across the board or only one region or whatever. And this trending can also be sliced and diced in many different ways. We can say, give me the pipeline trending of new logo. Okay, give me the trending of expansion. And we can see these lines is going to change in their position. And give me the trending for different products, right? You have a new product. What about the trending of that product versus your existing product? So there's many things you can do with this report. And again, this is not something that Salesforce can do, right? This is BI, what BI can provide.
Yeah. You started to touch on it a little bit. Any other thoughts on like how you take this and actually run the business with it? So you mentioned some questions to be asked, things to look out for. Are these kinds of views, like are they used in weekly meetings? Is there an operating cadence? Like how do you put these to work?
Good question. We have a weekly meeting. We have a weekly COO call. So on the call, we have our CMO, we have the head of sales, we have head of customer success, head of sales engineer, and we present the data. I present the data every week, and the deck is different, honestly, from week to week. And the reason that I can do that every week is because I have a BI system that is easy for me to grab different data sets. Like pipeline trending, I show basically every week. But in terms of some other highlights that I want to see, like some of the, like for example, if I see any trend that is changing, I want to provide some insight, I can easily get that insight over to the deck and I'll say, this is the reason that we have a decrease. This is the reason that is happening. We can easily drill down to the data behind it, and other team functions will jump in and to provide overlay.
So do you drive the agenda then? You're kind of owning the analytics. I suspect you're kind of reviewing it yourself. Are you bringing your own observations or is there someone else dictating the agenda? How does that work?
So we have a fixed agenda. So every week we have the call. Like I said, that's a COO weekly
Hmm.
meeting. And I'm taking 10 to 15 minutes to present revenue operations update, which is a bunch of data update, trending update, and other functions will provide their update. So, if there's any discussions, the time can take longer. But yeah, we do this every single week, which I think is very helpful because some of these charts, it's going to take some time for people to get used to it,
Hmm.
and to know what they talk about. So I think that's a good exercise.
Yeah, I
And I
think
think, I highly recommend that all the companies will invest, 15 minutes is good enough, right? Every week to go through the deck, and we can blow through the deck, honestly. If like there's no change in trending, just the next chart.
yeah, that's great. And I think it's just great to get everyone in the habit of looking at it, asking the right questions. Cool. Any more examples here, Han?
I do. So this is just another right visual. This is we stack different things together.
Mm.
So one example here is this is qualified pipeline trending. We look at the qualified pipeline trending, and this is the later stage pipeline trending. So from here, well, first of all, I apologize that the color I don't think is consistent, but let's assume the color is consistent, right? This is like pink. You can easily see like the conversion. Apparently here, this is like converting at a much higher rate. And
Mm-hmm.
this part, this orange part, this is not converting at all. And so it's telling some stories, it's telling the challenges we're facing. And this is a good chart for us to keep monitoring the trending and see, if the conversion is getting better or not, right? Or maybe this is just not a good target for us because we're having a great trouble converting it.
Yeah,
Just one example of telling the story.
I love that one.
Uh, yeah, and this is an ARR report, and I don't have the chart, but this is a table that can be shared with finance. Right on the left-hand side, you have your beginning ARR by quarter. You can see what is your expansion amount, what is the dollar churn, the downsell, what is the account churn, and what is the ending AR after the period, right? What is the growth? What is the sequential retention GDR, right? Meaning that is comparing to last quarter, or what is the annual GDR or NDR? So it's giving a lot of data, and then you can put it into a chart, right? You can have a stack bar chart with a zero in the middle, and then you know if you have new and the expansion, you have bar on top, and then churn and downsell, right? And then you have the net, uh, and and also in BI, it's easy for you to click anything, and then you see the data behind it, which is very
The drill
quick
down,
way to
yeah.
answer the questions. Correct.
Does that run us through the list?
Pretty much. Pretty
Perfect.
much.
Super helpful. I think it's great. And I think like most of these look relatively simple. Probably not the simplest thing in the world to make. A lot of devils in the details, for sure. Well, cool. Maybe switching gears, Han, and thanks for running through that. I think it's a great example is how to stand this up. But first, my question for you, and you're going to maybe have a biased answer, but a lot of companies have a centralized data and BI team. Should RevOps own BI or data?
That's a very good question. The answer really, I think, is it depends. And the reason that I'm saying that is because the data team, they have a lot of expertise that the RevOps team don't have. Like for example, if you ask me, uh, can I effectively manage a data team? Like, do I have all the expertise? I probably don't, right? A lot of it is falling under engineering. There's a lot of practice that is like the engineering practice, which is not something I'm very familiar with. But I will say that there should be very, very close collaboration between RevOps and the data team, because RevOps has a lot of the business context. You have to collaborate with the data team to make the data meaningful.
Hmm.
And that is very critical. So, I mean, in my company, I own a BI, but I can see in other companies I collaborate with the data team, which is something I'm totally fine with. I'm fine. I'd rather have them do what they are very good at, and I collaborate with that team
Hmm.
to get what I want. There's a lot of things that we have to sync up together, right, to adopt best practice.
What are your tips for someone? And for the record, I feel like it's pretty spread across all the RevOps leaders I've spoken to. Some own all of BI, like you. Some own a couple dedicated resources to support RevOps. Some own none at all. And it's actually really hard to get on the calendar with data because they have so many other things to do. So I think there's a lot of different models that can work. But for those maybe that would land in your shoes, what's your advice for working with like a data team? To your point, it's technical, it's a different language. Like, how do you do that?
I would say you have to invest your time to educate that team. And that is a learning that I have here, which is something that I keep doing. And I think, there's a good result by doing that is you have to invest time to educate the team from the business perspective. You have to provide the fundamentals of like how we look at marketing, different attribution models. What is our top of the funnel process? How are the leads being handled by different teams? And what about sales, right? Different sales motions. What is our sales process? How do we forecast, right? How do we leverage channel? What is the channel process from deal registration to over to the pipeline? And then after we close the deal, how do we manage our customers? What is the process of getting the renew, getting the renew properly managed? How do we monitor the usage? And I think all these things, you have to make sure that you're keeping the data team in the loop, and you have to really explain the definitions of different terminologies. I mean, these guys are very smart. As long as you want to share, they're going to pick up very fast. But you have to share. And so I think that training that I provided to my BI resource is really helpful. And the other thing that I think is very helpful is I'm using my time to go through like, my thought process, looking at the dashboard. On our one-on-one, I will carve out some time. I will say, let's just look at the dashboard now, and let me show you how I look at the dashboard. And, I could be going to one dashboard and I will explain, I see this trend from here, and then I want to click into this, and this is my next question. And if at any moment that I'm not able to answer the question on the dashboard, that is something we need to build so they can see like why am I asking for certain functions, certain charts, right? So, and I think that collaboration is very important. I don't think you can take it for granted. Like, you give this requirement to the data team, and then they're gonna give you exactly what you want. You
Totally.
have to be super involved, right? You need to educate them. And I think that education is also getting them very motivated because they learn things, right? They are not, and they are doing things in context. They kind of they see how the product is being used in the business context. So the more you share, the better the collaboration will be.
Yeah, that's great advice. And not always easy because it takes time, but we'll definitely reap benefit. I'm conscious of time here. We're running up on it, but I do also want to cover like the checklist, so to speak, of standing up BI tactically. So I think you kind of touched on scoping a little bit with that response, but I'm thinking scoping, resources you need, general cost. Like how should teams think about
Yeah.
the endeavor to
Let
build a
me. I have a slide, okay, and
perfect.
I presented this slide to our management team to give an update of the BI project. So, I mean, these are really important things, right? We have seen this visual many times, but I think this is a great visual for BI because normally what people see is what is in Tableau, right? The visualization layer. But in terms of the checklist, first of all, before you head into BI, you have to look at your business systems like the CRM and the marketing automation tool and see are they in a good shape or not?
Hmm.
Because many of these tools are pretty shitty in terms of there's a lot of technical debt because functionalities are being added, data being added. You mentioned about customer objects. Many companies are going crazy with customer objects. You don't know which ones are being managed. Like what data are you going to be using? You have to carve out. If you don't have a clean system, you have to define like this is the data set I can trust, I can use, I can protect. And by the way, the protect is very important because once you have a data set, you need to have a lot more things around it to protect that data set. You
Hmm.
have to have processes. Ideally, everything is automated. You don't touch it. But CRM, sales reps are on the tool, right? How do you make sure that they're putting down the right information? All these things you need to protect. And the other thing is you have to have stabilized reporting. KPIs has to be well defined, and then you define like what are the initial set of reports you're gonna migrate over to BI. And then some of these things are more technical, like what is the tool set you're going to be using, right? The ETL tool, we use Azure Synapse. What is the data warehouse? How do you optimize, the cost so that you're not going crazy with your BI cost? And also, very importantly, is security. How do you make sure that the data is secure and also you only surface up the data that you want certain teams to surface up, the permission and all that set up. And change management, once you have the tool system set up, it's not over because you're gonna have new things, right? You're gonna have changes in Salesforce. Certain fields might have different values. You might retire some data points. You might have a new product offering. How do you make sure that all these things can get over to and not break BI to begin with, right? It can impact all the snapshots that we mentioned. So you have to
Man,
think about all these,
I'm
right?
exhausted just hearing it. It sounds like standing up BI is only the beginning, and data never really ends, right?
Oh, it's just a beginning. Exactly. Exactly. So I hope that makes sense. Uh, that's right. I want to say that this is an investment. Right? It's an investment on many fronts. Like from the business side, like I have to invest the time to, like I mentioned, I have to educate the team. Right? You have to make sure that you have the right alignment between your business systems team to the BI team, so that things don't break. Otherwise, your investment is gonna go to nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great place to cap it. You covered some of the pitfalls in there as well. We're almost up on time. Thank you, Han. Before we go, we always like to finish with a rapid fire finish. And so we'll pull out of the weeds of data real quick and talk a little bit about just RevOps generally. So first few things that come to mind. How would you describe a great RevOps leader in 3 words?
So I read them down actually here. So I think first of all, it has to be very analytical. That's like I think a very important trait. And the second thing is has to be very calm because you're dealing with a lot of different things in the business, right? And you have to compensate other personalities within the business, if you know what I mean. So you want to be the calmer voice in the mix and to provide the insight. And the other thing is also related to like interpersonal skill. You have to be able to build a good relationship with your other shareholders, business shareholders, because if you can't, you probably you get shooed off, from their business practice, and you're not able to influence any decision making. They don't take your business insight seriously, and that means your value is diminished, and you probably should find another job, or I don't know, but there's no return. You're providing insight and the insight is not being taken seriously. And that is a problem, a very big problem.
And one piece of advice, in addition to, I think, what could be considered advice there as well, to someone starting in RevOps or say early-ish in their career that wants to grow to be a VP in the future.
One advice I'm giving to everybody, to my team, is you need to make sure that you are very organized and every piece you put down is very solid, because this job can go crazy, right? You're being pulled into different directions. In the meanwhile, you have to produce a lot of different things. And if you are ever into this scenario that your numbers are not syncing up and you have to like troubleshoot, you are in deep trouble. And by the way, when you need to fight fire, that's normally like the worst possible timing. You need to make sure that you are very tight. You have very good discipline of managing all the aspects of your function. Because if you don't, it's going to come back and bite on you. I'm talking about before you head into any leadership position. But once you are in leadership position, it's the same thing. You have to check to make sure that all these things are solid. Otherwise, it's going to crash. It's going to crash for sure if you don't have a very tight management of all these aspects. So, I think the advice is never overlook the foundation. The foundation is your systems, your data, the analytics you provide, and your relationship with the business founder. And your credibility is really you provide the right insight, right? And also, you can balance out by helping the team meaning whatever the sales team is asking, you give them like right away. You help them right away, give them what they want. Marketing, give them right away, as fast as very responsive. All these things are good traits to build up that credibility that you can be a partner in the business. Otherwise, it's going to be hard.
Awesome. That's a great place to leave it. Han, this is super valuable, I think, for folks that'll be thinking through BI, whether they're just getting into it or already in the thick of it. A lot to think about. It's kind of a scary prospect. I'd be remiss to not plug a cow name if this is all sounding overwhelming and you need kind of a all-in-one solution, but there's a lot of other great kind of tools out there as well for the whole ecosystem. But Han, thanks again so much for taking the time with us, and we really appreciate it.
Sure thing.